Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home. You dig?
Today is Thursday, June 25th, 2026. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. The Supreme Court, the extreme court, clears a path for Trump administration to possibly deport hundreds of thousands of Haitians and Syrian immigrants. We talked to a leading advocate about the implications of today's ruling, and also the Ohio governor is not happy because that could impact his economy with those Haitians in Springfield, Ohio. I'll show you my discussion with House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries. We talk about the efforts to mobilize black voters in the midterms. Also, Trump refusing to sign the bill to fix housing in this country, as well as the election of Democratic socialists in New York City. As America marks its 250th anniversary next week, leaders across the country will hold a national day of action. Two of those organizers will join us. Disillusionment among black voters in Texas and across the country could cost James Talarico and other Democrats the U.S. Senate. We'll talk to political analyst Ashley Etienne about the very issue. A federal judge has blocked key parts of Trump's executive order aimed at interfering in the midterms. We'll talk about that. Plus, progressive victories in D.C. and New York have folks up in arms, but I don't understand why. It's not like that's happening nationwide. We'll break it all down. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
The extreme court sides with Donald Trump when it comes to deporting Haitian and Syrian immigrants. In a 6-3 ruling, the court overturned a lower court decisions and sided with the administration. It could affect more than 350,000 Haitians and 6,100 Syrians working and living legally in the U.S. under temporary protected status. Nearly 1.3 million people from 17 different countries are currently in the U.S. under temporary protected status. And immigration activists warn that today's ruling empowers Donald Trump to target even more of these people. Andrea Flores, founder of Securing America's Promise and former DHS and White House advisor, joins us right now. I'm glad to have you here, Andrea. This is obviously devastating. And these are people who came here due to humanitarian crisis. And Donald Trump wants these folks out. And let's be real clear. Donald Trump wants black people and people of color out. They welcome white folks from other parts of the world.
They absolutely do. I mean, the racial animus issues in this case, it was very clear that the Supreme Court did a very shocking thing and essentially discarded any evidence that President Trump had been racist against Haitian immigrants, despite all of the statements that most Americans have heard him say about the Haitian American community. And this decision won't just impact Haitians and Syrians. It could actually open the door for up to 1.3 million immigrants who are here legally to lose their status. And it will allow President Trump to take it away without courts being able to review it. So it is a devastating decision. And to exactly your point, it is targeting immigrants who are from countries that the president has openly called undesirable and has made many derogatory remarks about. So it's a really, really sad day for the country.
And of course, you have folks who are running for office who understand the implications of this decision. One of the Republicans who is on a very tight, leash when it comes to his district is Mike Lawler. There are many Haitian immigrants or folks of Haitian descent in his district. This is what he said. While I have never disputed the ability of the president to end temporary protected status, I strongly disagree with ending Haitian TPS at this time. First, the situation on the ground in Haiti is a humanitarian and political disaster and continues to warrant an extension. The State Department has a level 4 travel advisory telling all Americans to evacuate and not travel there precisely because the gangs are in charge of the country, engaged in gun and drug trafficking and kidnapping innocent Haitians. Then he also says, second, of the 350,000 lawful Haitian TPS holders, roughly 1/3 work in our healthcare system. Immediately shutting off TPS will create a crisis in our hospitals, nursing homes, and in the I/DD community. And this is the thing, Andrea, I have continued to say that people do not understand. They do not understand how integrated our society is with immigrants in this country. We're talking about critical areas. I'm going to read a quote in a minute from the Ohio governor, Mike DeWine. He knows that if Donald Trump decides to send in his ICE boots into Springfield, Ohio, that is going to completely destroy the economy there because it was the Haitian immigrants that actually restored the economy of Springfield and in the housing because they had lost some 30,000 people over 2 decades.
That's right. I mean, this decision is devastating for the economy. It's going to hurt the construction industry, the healthcare industry. It's going to make the cost of living crisis much worse because TPS is a type of immigration policy that Americans generally support, right? Immigrants come forward, they're vetted, and they work legally, and they fill jobs that other Americans cannot fill. So if I'm a business right now, I imagine that I'm suddenly wondering, do I have to fire my TPS workers? And what we've seen, to your point, when Trump can go ahead and start deporting a new population of people, he sends in more federal agents, he sends in ICE, he sends in Border Patrol. And what happens, what we see in the economic data, is that that hurts the economy of the entire community. And so small businesses lose money, healthcare centers, people don't get healthcare. I mean, this is a bad decision for Americans and for the immigrants who live alongside them. You know, President Trump wants to pretend that immigrants sort of are external to our communities, but they're not. They fill jobs, create jobs. Their kids are in school with our kids. And this is just going to unleash more scenes like we saw in Minneapolis and Chicago and in Los Angeles.
Ohio Governor Mike DeWine. Today's decision is a legal decision. As I've stated in the past, the policy to remove these individuals from this country is a mistake. Go to my iPad, please. As a result of today's ruling, the over 10,000 Haitians who have been living in Ohio, mostly in the Springfield area, legally through TPS, will now be here illegally and will be subject to immediate deportation. This also means that while these Haitians were working and contributing to our community and economy yesterday, it is now illegal to employ them. The situation in Haiti could hardly be much worse. The violent gangs run most of the country, the government barely functions, and the economy is in shambles. Further, our federal government has an advisory against traveling to Haiti, and our Federal Aviation Administration prohibits U.S. carriers from flying there because of the danger the planes are being shot at by the gangs. But more importantly, changing the immigration status of these individuals is not in the best interest of the United States nor Ohio. And Andrea, I'm telling you, you're going to be more red state governors who are going to wake up and realize, we're screwed if all of a sudden they start shipping these folks back.
That's right. I mean, how many businesses, like I said, are going to have to fire workers that they've trained and hired? And we know that many of these workers are in states like Springfield, Ohio. The reason that Haitians were able to revitalize the economy of Springfield, Ohio, is they filled jobs that Ohio businesses couldn't fill without them. And so I really fear for the Haitian community because just think about the violence and the overreach we've seen from ICE. And Governor DeWine is exactly right. I mean, President Trump is going to be at odds with so many different parts of his party. And whether that is, CEOs, corporations, nobody wanted TPS to end this way. Only Stephen Miller, only President Trump in this White House. I mean, mass deportation is a bad policy for the country. And really, this is on Congress now to step in, and it's on the Senate to pass a bill that passed out of the House that would actually provide status for Haitian TPS holders. But of course, the pressure campaign has to move to President Trump. He has to know he needs more statements like from Governor DeWine, because as long as he listens to Stephen Miller, he'll keep making bad decisions on immigration that hurt our economy.
All right, then. Andrea Flores, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me.
Folks, let's go to our panel. Dr. Greg Carr, Department of Afro-American Studies at Howard University. Out of D.C., Rebecca Carruthers, President and CEO of Fair Elections Center out of D.C. Dr. Larry J. Walker, Associate Professor, University of Central Florida out of Orlando. We keep saying this, Greg, this is the GOP's war on Black America. It is a war on Black people. It is a war on people of color. Donald Trump and these maggots, they want white people in this country. This is all about white fear, and that's what this is all. That's what this lawsuit was all about.
Yes, it was interesting. Roland, Samuel Alito, nasty little racist out of Trenton, New Jersey. He appears to have the thinnest skin among the racists on the Supreme Court. In the other case today, Mueller versus Al Otro Lotto case, it's the case where they decided that just because someone tries to arrive in the United States and is turned back, that doesn't count as arriving in the United States. He read his opinion from the bench, or a summary of it, and then Sonia Sotomayor not only read part of her dissent, she went to page 20 of about a 35-page dissent and referred to the MS St. Louis, which of course you know, remember that was the ship in 1939 that turned away 900 Jews from the United States, and 250 of them ended up dying in the Holocaust. Alito seemed particularly prickled at this oral response, and then he said, if I had known that there would have been this response, I would have been more elaborate in my summary. Sam Alito, you're a purebred punk. And then, of course, he went on to give the summary in the case we just talked about, Mueller versus Doe. They have caught the car. These racists are now acting with reckless abandon. There's no concern for any notion of the rule of law, stare decisis. And they said that they didn't even have the right to review TPS status. The executive had that right. But as Justice Kagan wrote in her dissent, that all these folks are asking is to stay in the country while the underlying substantive claim is being litigated. And on that claim, they are likely to prevail because racial animus doesn't have to be the only factor in making the decision, only a factor. And it seems to me that they're eating the dogs is enough of racial animus to prevail on the underlying claim. What I expect will happen now is you're going to see some white nationalists like the governor of Ohio and some of those other red states that are going to slow walk this, may even come to find that they're going to be some interesting kind of quasi-sanctuary cities prop up and try to push this past the midterm. And finally, there might even be a little phone call or two to say, look, I can't come out in support of the Democratic candidate in this election, but if you win, I ain't going to be mad because somebody got to save this damn economy, and it ain't going to be the white nationalists.
Rebecca.
You know, if the governor of Ohio really doesn't like this, you know where he could start in fighting back. He can make sure that he's not pushing for onerous voter registration and ballot access rules in Ohio. Ohio is one of the states that effectively has the SAVE Act in place. And we especially, I'm sure we'll talk about this and you'll continue talking about this into next week with how the president is trying to push for the SAVE Act to be forced through next week or the week after's reconciliation bill. So while I hear what the governor of Ohio said, he's saying it because he views those Haitians as utility. I don't know that he really recognizes the humanity of the Haitians, the now legal status, or was legal status before this morning, Haitians in Springfield, Ohio. But this is about money for him. This is about capitalism. This is about filling a gap. This is utility. This is not about humanity. And so even as we're listening to people fight back or express their disdain for this morning's ruling, it's still there's a bit of hypocrisy here. I mean, the Haitian immigrant issue came up in last week's, this week's New York primary. It came up in terms of Democratic incumbents that lost, and part of the slurs were used. They use Haitian as a slur in the particular race that I'm referencing. And so while, yes, people are saying nice platitudes today, we still have to show the anti-Blackness, the lack of humanity that still is an undercurrent in these issues around immigration, in these issues around protected status.
Larry.
Roland, this decision is a worst case scenario. I think one of the things that people don't realize in terms of what the Supreme Court ruled today is the long-term impact this has on individuals who are, countries that suffered natural disasters and are dealing with other economic political challenges. And obviously we have people talk about the midterms and, general election in a couple of years. But what does this mean for the fabric of this country? I mean, we know what it means. We've talked about the anti-Blackness and why particularly Haitians have been, the focus of this administration now and during the campaign. They were very clear about the comments about eating dogs. This is not surprising in terms of what the administration was hoping for and what they got from the U.S. Supreme Court. I think the other thing is, Roland, is we talk a lot about the economic impact, but let's just talk about Haitians and Syrians and these other groups that they're going to eventually go after. These are human beings. Many of them have had children born here in the United States and are U.S. citizens and have had family members who have maybe prior become U.S. citizens. This is in terms of, we talk about, the United States and not only immigration being an important fabric, but what it means for families, right? What is the familial impact of this decision? You're going to tear families apart, and they're going to, ICE has gotten all this money recently from Congress. They're absolutely going to send hundreds, if not thousands, of ICE agents, not only in terms of Springfield, but in states throughout the country. And this is going to have a negative impact on the human fabric, and also obviously it's going to have an economic impact.
Well, folks, all of these are critical issues, and this is why we continue to focus on this. Earlier today, I talked with the House Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries about a variety of issues. We talked about Democrats' efforts to mobilize black voters in key races and also the ongoing attempts when it comes to MAGA. But we first off discuss the petulant child, the criminally convicted, twice impeached con man in chief who is refusing to sign a housing bill that passed with huge numbers in the House and the Senate. Jeffrey said this. Happened yesterday. Here you have a bill, blowout numbers in the Senate, blowout numbers in the House, and the petulant child, twice impeached, criminally convicted con man in chief says, I'm not signing until I get the SAVE Act.
It's incredible. I mean, basically, Donald Trump, Republicans would rather make it harder to vote than easier to purchase an affordable home. That's the bottom line. And this was a bipartisan bill negotiated in a tremendous way by Congresswoman Maxine Waters and Senator Elizabeth Warren, designed to try to deal with the housing crisis that exists in the United States of America. Donald Trump detonates the whole thing because he wants to engage in voter suppression and steal the election and prevent the midterms from being a free and fair election in November. And so he blows everything up, which is extraordinary to us, because he had an opportunity actually to try to demonstrate, based on the work of others, that some movement and progress is being made on dealing with the affordability crisis, but the guy could care less.
So I played a clip of Speaker Mike Johnson yesterday, and he was complaining that it's the Democrats' fault that the SAVE Act has not been passed. And I guess my response was, why in the hell should Democrats vote for it? You're complaining that, I don't understand his rationale. It's not like Democrats have to vote for something, but to blame Democrats for not passing, that's called democracy.
Called democracy. And you know what? Mike Johnson is absolutely correct. We oppose strongly the so-called SAVE Act because it's a voter suppression bill at the end of the day. And the reason why Donald Trump is trying to jam it down the throats of the American people is because he knows he doesn't have a record he could defend. He promised to lower the high cost of living on day one. Costs are going up. He promised not to start wars in the Middle East, but to stop them. And then he turns around and gets us involved in the reckless and costly war of choice in Iran that has made life more expensive for the American people. This guy promised to love and cherish Medicaid, and then he literally said that, and then he turned around and with the one big ugly bill enacted the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. He's saying one thing, he does the other. The American people know it. He ain't fooling anyone. And so I think they've come to the conclusion, Roland, that the only way for them to win is to cheat. And that's why he's so desperate to try to get this so-called Save America Act over the finish line. But House and Senate Democrats uniformly oppose it. And we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that it doesn't become law.
Speaking of that, the head of the Postal Service went before a Senate committee yesterday and essentially said that unless states turn over their voting rolls, they're not going to deliver mail ballots. I thought the Postal Service was supposed to be a nonpartisan, take no sides, we just deliver the mail operation. How alarmed are you with this new rule that they have, or proposed rule that they have put in place?
Yeah, it's a proposed rule that we will not allow to take effect. We're going to stop the Postal Service. They have no business doing the bidding of Donald Trump. It's a quasi-governmental agency. It's not actually an agency that falls within the purview of Donald Trump to run. And, you know, we're going to make sure that that's clear legislatively, and, of course, make sure that as we deal with this issue in the courts, we'll be successful there as well, we believe. In fact, Roland, we just won today a decision. A federal judge declared Donald Trump's efforts to try to restrict mail-in voting through his executive order to be in violation of the law and the Constitution. So we're going to keep the pressure on as it relates to all of these tactics to engage in as part of their efforts to suppress the vote. And we got to keep the pressure on through this midterm election. And then when we're on the backside of it, go on offense relative to the things that we can actually do when we have gavels in our hands, including making sure we pass the John Robert Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act.
But you have folks who are very concerned that this administration, how they're going to attack people. I saw a clip on social media where ICE agents literally showed up at a voting location to accost a poll worker who tweeted something that they didn't like. That right there is scary, that all that you have ICE that's looking at social media and they are going to people's homes, going to the polling booth to do this. How concerned are you that Donald Trump is going to unleash federal law enforcement on polling sites in November?
This is what we're absolutely concerned that this is one of the tactics that he will pursue. This was the genesis of part of the reason ICE being totally out of control. The Democrats drew a hard line in the sand and made clear they weren't going to get a dime from us as it relates to the manner in which they're conducting themselves. Immigration enforcement in and of itself should be fair, just, and humane. That's not what's happening. And then we have ICE agents being redirected as part of Donald Trump's efforts to suppress the vote and intimidate people. Now, here's the thing. I think the American people are resilient. They know that the Trump presidency has been a complete and total failure. House Republicans and Senate Republicans have been a complete and total failure and are going to show up in record numbers and overwhelm the Republican shenanigans. We've got to make sure that that, of course, happens. And one of the reasons why it's important for people to lean in, not back away, but lean in, is we want to make sure that the results in November are too big for them to try and rig. And we've seen this happen in other parts of the world. Viktor Orban, an autocrat, an authoritarian, a dictator, couldn't rig the election at the end of the day because the results were too big for him to rig. And if anyone was going to try to steal an election other than Donald Trump, it was Orban over in Hungary. And so despite their efforts to try to intimidate all of us, we everyday Americans have the power to do something about it, which is to make sure that you forcefully show up all across the country, up and down the ballot, and overwhelm the Republican effort to try to steal the voices of the American people in our democracy.
I'm glad you made that point. And let's talk about that issue of turnout, especially as it relates to African Americans. Ashley Etienne and Dallas Jones, who's a consultant, wrote a piece in the Houston Chronicle called "Cracks in the Foundation: The Quiet Crisis facing Texas Democrats. They talked about in 2020, 15% of black men in Texas voting for Trump. That doubled in 2024. They laid out that you had in 2024, 1.2 million black Texans not voting. 2018, 1 million staying at home. In that case, Beto O'Rourke lost by 214,000 votes to Ted Cruz. We look at the Georgia Senate race. We look at the North Carolina Senate race. We look at, of course, other states. Obviously, you've got critical House races. You've got Republicans wiping out congressional districts in Louisiana, in Alabama. Republicans backed off in Georgia. They've wiped out the seat of Congressman Emmanuel Cleavers in Missouri. We see how they are targeting Don Davis in North Carolina. They want to do, and of course, we saw what happened in Texas as well. A lot of people I've talked to, consultants, grassroots groups, say that Democrats are doing what they've done in the last several cycles, taking black votes for granted, not putting the resources on the ground, understanding how do you drive turnout, and that they're sort of banking on this old model that existed that really hasn't been the same since Obama ran in 2008 and 2012. What are you saying to not only House Majority PAC, Senate Majority PAC, progressive donors, that they're going to have to change how they target African-American voters? Because when we see numbers all across the country, black voters are not turning out the same way they were before. And this boils down to, if Democrats want to win, they're going to have to energize a black base. And that means spending the money and spending more time than they normally would and more money they normally would targeting those voters.
Well, you're absolutely correct, Roland. As we just saw last week during the opening of the Obama Presidential Center, when President Obama, First Lady Michelle Obama, they spoke so powerfully, eloquently, with dignity and strength at the same period of time. These were transformational figures who had an impact on the nation and the world, but certainly there was a huge amount of pride and support that they were able to, of course, generate in the African-American community. Once in a lifetime figures. And we're not going to see numbers like that simply because we assume that African-American Democrats or others are going to turn out in the way that they turned out the two times that Barack Obama was on the ballot in 2008 and 2012. We're going to have to, in many ways, follow, I think, what was done in Virginia so successfully by, Speaker Don Scott, Abigail Spanberger, where there was an actual investment. And I know you played a meaningful role in this, Roland. There was an actual investment in making sure that we were authentically communicating with, listening to, and then acting upon the concerns of African Americans. And that's going to have to be replicated all across the country. It certainly is our intention to make sure that we do that as it relates to our House races. And at the Senate level, at the gubernatorial level, certainly there are going to be states, and you mentioned several of them, in North Carolina, in Georgia, in Texas, where the support of the African-American community statewide could make a big difference. And we actually need to get on that sooner rather than later. We coordinate and communicate with our colleagues where there's overlap in the Senate and with the Democratic Governors Association. I will reinforce and reiterate this point. We can't simply assume. President Obama was Jackie Robinson. Most African Americans aren't aware of who Larry Doby is. I know, right? It was the second African American to play in Major League Baseball, and the first, of course, in the American League. But since he came second, right, the level of understanding and enthusiasm was not the same. You got to invest more in letting the American people know who Larry Doby is. And by the way, that's the same thing for every other Democrat.
And look, I'm going to tell you right now, I've talked to different candidates. I've talked to these different campaigns, and it's sort of the same thing. And the concern that I have is that if you go, obviously 65 plus, they identify more as Democrats. In 55 to 64, somewhat. Once you go below 55, that number drops, which means that they don't self-identify as Democrats. These African Americans are more likely to vote Democrat. But what it also means is that there's going to have to be far more time and effort. And what I have been saying and I said this to Vice President Kamala Harris in November 2023. I've said this to numerous candidates, that you have to spend, let's say, January to August in an informed, enlightened education stage. That means having town halls, having conversations, connecting the dots, educating folks, and then you go into the period of voter registration, and then you go into turning them out. And I've talked to grassroots groups. They have seen a dramatic drop in financial support, and they're out there ones who are beating the bushes, going door to door, doing that work. And to be frankly honest, Congressman, you have too many white consultants who frankly want to keep spending money on TV and don't want to put money on the ground. And I'm telling you from what I know, traveling the country, that's going to be a huge problem. And if Democrats don't wake up to that reality, they may see more black erosion in November.
Listen, we've got to spend significant resources on the ground. We're seeing that, traditional media, television, for instance, by way of example, far less effective in reaching people because far more folks are getting their information through non-traditional media, through new media, through social media, and through organizing, of course, on the ground, person to person, peer to peer. And that certainly is where we're at in terms of what needs to happen to make sure we re-elect Don Davis, re-elect Shamari Figures, despite the fact that Republicans are trying to make things more difficult. I also think, Roland, we have an opportunity here because, listen, it's clear that Republicans and right-wing conservatives are trying to rip away Black political representation and the opportunity for African Americans in the South and across the country to elect the candidate of their choice. And we can be very clear about that in terms of who is trying to undermine our voices. While at the same period of time, we've got to do a better job, particularly of speaking to younger African Americans, as you've laid out, about our efforts to actually try to make their life better. That's through, financial and economic empowerment. That's through home ownership. That's through promoting entrepreneurship as well.
Last question. Big wins for Democratic socialists in New York City. Candidates that you endorsed did not win. National media is making a big deal out of this. I'm reminding them that, listen, what may work in New York City does not necessarily work across the country. Your take on that, was that a situation where, frankly, they out-organize and out-mobilize? And are you making it clear that if those candidates win in November, that you will be welcoming them into the Democratic caucus fold gladly? Because all this reporting is like, oh my goodness, there's tension with them and their agenda. So you'll speak to that.
Yeah, well, I had a good conversation with the mayor yesterday, and we speak regularly on a wide variety of issues. And we're on the same page in terms of doing what's necessary to make New York City as affordable as possible and deal with the challenges that working class communities and working class communities of color, are confronting for far too long, particularly in the face of massive gentrification that people have been experiencing, not just in New York City, but all across the country. It's one of the reasons why getting this housing bill over the finish line that Donald Trump is refusing to sign is so incredibly important. I do think that, as you've indicated, Roland, that, New York City, listen, in my view, is the greatest city in the world. I know you may disagree with that, H-Town in the building.
Of course I do. Of course I do.
But, Houston's a great all-American city as well, with a great African-American community, long tradition there that's incredible, starting with Barbara Jordan and Mickey Leland, Sheila Jackson Lee, and so many others, and of course, Roland Martin. But what I will say is that what happens in New York City is not necessarily applicable to our ability to actually flip seats across the country, because New York City is a big blue city at the end of the day. And, I credit the candidates who were successful. I've spoken to several of them already. We'll be meeting with others, when I'm back at home over the next week or so. And I think hopefully, and I talked to the mayor about this yesterday, and one of the things, he understands is important is that we got to flip the house. And there's got to be a coming together in order for us to do what's necessary to win, to end this national nightmare in America, and to continue our country's march toward a more perfect union.
Well, I agree with you. New York City is a nice city, ain't Houston. And also, I wore this for a reason.
I'm gonna have to rock my Kappa pin next time, Roland. But you know,
Yeah, okay.
1906, you guys were first. You know,
That's right. That's right. No, Haitian Jeffries, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thanks much. See you soon.
I appreciate it. All right then. And also, folks, you heard me say in that interview with Democrat leader Jeffries, I talked about that piece that was done in the Houston Chronicle. And I mentioned Ashley Etienne. We talked about, of course, what they have to do when it comes to drive black voters. She joins us right now. The thing, and I have been yelling and screaming this for years, Ashley, and I go back. So I graduated from Texas A&M in 1991. Okay. And I remember elections in 90 and 91, and I remember the conversations I was having with classmates. And I was saying then, and I went to the Austin American Statesman, my first job out of college, and I kept saying, y'all, you are seeing a change among African Americans. In 91. If you take, this is 1991, if you take your civil rights movement folk, very much hardcore, self-identified Democrats. And when I look at polls and things done, pro-black. No. So I'm not following you. Okay. Self-identified Democrats. Okay. And then you go to the next decade, then the second decade. Okay. You begin to see, again, when you go below 65, that begins to change. Sure. They get further and further away from self-identifying. Now, they were showing that they were not self-identifying, but were still leaning, still voting Democrat. In the last 3 to 4 cycles, what you're now seeing, not self-identifying, and some moving towards Republican side, others simply checking out of the process completely. So the problem that I have yelling to these Democrats to understand is the model that they've been using, which is the civil rights model, it is the church model, it is the, okay, let's go to these places in late September, let's hit them on Sundays in October. That's all gone. That's obliterated. And then I believe what these Democrats have been doing, and this is where Obama changed the game. Not for good. Not for good. So Obama comes in. He doesn't need the infrastructure. He didn't need it.
Meaning
he said it.
Black voters.
No. The black political infrastructure that was.
Yeah.
He said it.
Sure.
Didn't need it.
Right.
The problem is everybody after wasn't him. And even if you look at 2012, there was a drop off between black men and black women in 2012.
Absolutely.
And so Democrats have been just sort of like blinded, still thinking, oh, we can run the same model that we did 40 years ago. You can't. You can't even run the same model that you ran 14 years ago.
And by the way,
the electorate has changed.
And by the way, you can't run it on Obama's back either. What I found interesting about what Mr. Jeffries said, he immediately pointed to Barack Obama. But the love and admiration that black people have for Barack Obama is not transferable to anybody else. To your point, we started bleeding support among black voters when he was in the White House.
Right, there was a 9-point gap. And look, I again, if folk want to sit here and this ain't hating, it's stating.
Yeah, it's facts. Yeah.
2012, the Obama folk had no plans to go speak at any black conventions. That's just a fact. Okay? I got that directly from folks who were in the White House. They saw polling data in April and May. They were soft among African Americans. That's when they decided to go speak at the National Urban League. That's when he went and announced that HBCU initiative that nobody could explain to me even in the following 4 years.
Sure.
There was softness there.
Sure.
Because there were African Americans who said, yo, we voted, we're not seeing the results of our vote.
Right.
And that's why when he ran against Romney in 2012, there was a 9-point gap between black men and black women. So when sisters were telling me in 2016, well, it's because Hillary's a woman, I was like, no. That was departing in 2012. It then exacerbated in 16, 20, and 24.
Because of divestment. Because there was no investment made in building and shoring up the infrastructure of black political power on the ground. That's really why I wrote this article about Talarico, is because the warning signs are flashing. They're off the charts. 34% of black men in the state of Texas voted for Republican. You've got a situation where now they're having their convention amid backlash from black women voters. You got black women saying the quiet thing finally out loud, that we give 92% to this party and we don't get anything in return. So, we're seeing a situation where, black people are, I think, having a level of awakening to all of what you and I have been talking about the problems are with this particular party. So my point about writing this op-ed is to make the point that Talarico has an opportunity. He's raised more money than practically any other candidate in the nation, $28 million. He needs to do what he's doing right now in the Latino community. He broke with convention. You just laid out convention, which is I show up late, make the least amount of investment. He broke with convention when it comes to Latino voters. He's been investing in early in Latino voters, and it's actually making a difference. He's proven the point that if you invest early, you meet people where they are, they will come your direction. So my question is, why aren't you doing that with the black community? Why not make those same level of investments? If you said out of your mouth that you cannot win without black voters, then why 3 months later we still don't have an infrastructure within your campaign that's specifically targeting black voters?
And the reality is you can't win without black voters. Even you look at when Beto O'Rourke ran, he lost by 2.5 points to Ted Cruz. You had 1 million black folks who didn't vote. The reality is there are more eligible black voters in Texas than any other state in the country. But this is also not just a Texas issue. We look at Ken Martin, they've been putting money in this Senate race in Mississippi. Because when they looked at that gubernatorial race, how close they came to upsetting Tate Reeves, it also proved the point. If you put money in, you put money on the ground, because that's the other piece. Sure. Because part of this whole idea, when we talk about investment, investment, it doesn't mean let's just buy more TV and radio ads.
Absolutely.
It actually means how are you engaging on the ground? So we're now talking Texas, Mississippi. We're talking Georgia Senate race, North Carolina Senate race. We're talking Ohio as well. And again, what I keep telling these folks is that old model is out the window.
Okay, so can I give you the North Star? The North Star is Georgia. What Stacey Abrams did in Georgia is the new model. What she decided to do is she said, I'm going to make long-term investments in building up the infrastructure of black political power in Georgia. I'm going to, secondly, go early where black voters are. Rural black voters made the difference in Georgia. I'm going to go and engage black voters where we've never engaged them before. That is really the new formula to driving black turnout.
Well, remember. So again, we have to talk about what they did there. It was 2012, and let's be real clear, the party was not trying to invest. The night Obama won 2012, I'm waiting to go on CNN. We are in the wings with Chris Van Hollen.
Sure.
Then Congressman, now Senator.
Yeah, he was the golden boy.
And so Van Hollen was running the DCCC.
Absolutely.
So I say, hey man, when are y'all going to wake up and realize you need to invest in Georgia and Texas? I said there are 2 million eligible but unregistered Latinos in Texas. I said 800,000, I forget the number I gave him in Georgia. He goes, both of those are red. I said, they're not red.
Sure.
I said, they're not red. I said, I'm telling you, I said, but if you make no
it's the
effort.
Potential to be purple.
I said, if you make no effort, they're guaranteed to be red.
Absolutely.
So after that election, what Stacey and that group does is they say, okay, you know what? We're going to figure out how do we do this. So one, the law got changed where it was automatic voter registration when you got your driver's license. They understood the infrastructure changes that need to be made.
Absolutely.
So the work that was done in 2012, 13, 14, 15, it pays off in 2020 with Biden, Harris, Warnock, and Ossoff winning. What the problem for how these people keep thinking, they keep thinking, well, throw some money in now, we're going to win the election. No.
It's election thinking.
It might take you 4 to 8 years.
It will take.
But the reason Georgia right now is in the place it is in right now, the reason those 2 black folks won the Public Safety Commission seats a few months ago is because of that infrastructure.
And that was the argument I made in my op-ed, which is you've got the potential to turn Texas purple in the same ways that we were able to achieve it in Georgia. I think it's a direct parallel. But can I just say one thing, Roland? This might be a little provocative, but if you look at the numbers objectively, you can say to some degree in the state of Texas, black folks are the swing voters. Black people are the swing. They're definitely persuasion voters. So they are the swing voters. So the question is, why are you chasing this one small percentage of white voters who you think are the swing voters when the reality is black voters are your swing voters?
If you look at the map in Texas.
And every dollar invested in building the infrastructure in the black community multiplies 5 times over. Because if you get to me, I'm going to get to 5 other people. If you get to them, they're not telling nobody in their little country club that they voting for you. Get out of here.
The math is very simple in states where you have lots of black voters. And the math is this here. If you're a Democrat, you're not. We know since LBJ signed the 64 Civil Rights Act and the 65 Voting Rights Act, white folks ain't riding with Democrats with the majority of the vote. They're not.
Right.
So the reality is, you get your 38, 42, 45% white vote, you cannot win without black.
Literally.
And without Latino voters. Even places like Texas, you can get a large Latino vote and white vote, but if a significant of black stay at home, you're DOA. So the reality is, you have to target Hispanics, target white folks, and you gotta target black folks.
Yes.
But the problem that I keep seeing is you have these hard-headed, white, largely male consultants who do not want to listen to black consultants, black pollsters, do not want to take their advice. They don't get hired. And then when they lose, blacks didn't turn out because you did not invest to reach them early. You can't wait 3 weeks before the election to go, oh man, we need to reach these folks.
Okay, I can't tell you how many war rooms I've been in presidential campaigns where we're begging for money the last 30 days out to turn out black folks. So just to bolster your point on that. But I will say, can I just share some of the responsibility? What needs to happen is black leadership, especially in our home state of Texas, needs to understand that they have all the power in the dynamic. This man said that he cannot win without your people. So the question is, what are you demanding of this gentleman? Kamala Harris said it perfectly. We have to become more transactional. So in a situation where his back is against the wall, my question is, what are we demanding of him? Now, when we talk about investments in the infrastructure, you're right. I'm talking about the ground. But I'm also talking about creating and building a new information ecosystem that includes new black media like the show where I'm on right now.
That's one thing we talked about, because he cited Virginia. And what happened in Virginia was, and that all was because of Don Scott, who was the Speaker of the House. Don Scott said, we can't keep doing things the same way. When he reached out to us in 2023, Don Scott, Alpha, Texas A&M graduate, so double connection. He said, hey, I saw what you did with Warnock. I want you to do the same thing.
Absolutely.
He said, we win the House, I become Speaker of the House.
Absolutely.
So they made an advertising investment. We did 5 shows on the road there. All the different candidates came on. They were able to take those clips, drive them out. And then there were people who were watching the show. Now, here's what was crazy. The white Democrats who came up to him and said, why in the hell were you wasting your time to spend that money?
Sure.
And he said, we got the data. He said, these are the people who said I couldn't make the town hall, but I was watching it online.
Sure.
They win the House.
Sure.
All right. 2025, they come back. He said, we're going to do it again. They expanded the House. And so he's been telling folk who actually talked to him, saying, y'all, this is what you have to do. You can't just sit here and just throw a concert and throw a rally.
Throw Cardi B at it and Obama.
You go. No,
exactly.
Right. It makes no sense.
Can I just
say? So this is where they keep failing. Make the point. Then I'm going to go to the panel. They got questions for you.
Okay. So can I just say that when I say that we have to share the responsibility with black leadership, that's not just in the state of Texas, but that's nationally.
Absolutely.
I was on your show. We talked about the release of the autopsy. The most important pages in that entire document are the last 5 pages where they talk about where the money went. The entire Democratic ecosystem, including what Mr. Jeffries is in charge of, the DCCC, it is an $8 billion industry. Black people get about 1 to 2% investment out of $8 billion. That's about $1.25 per black voter. Okay, that's abysmal. So my point is
hold on, no. Say it again for the Simple Simon Negroes who were getting an attitude because I got $350,000 in advertising from the Kamala Harris campaign. But they didn't say a damn thing. They didn't say a damn thing about the 800 million white folks got, or they said nothing about the 9.5 million BET got. That's not even black owned. But see, that's what.
But I don't even think you compare it to that, Roland. Can I just say you compare it to the $100 million the white consultant firm got? What is that about?
No. The reason I brought up white media, because the same Negroes watch white media.
Absolutely.
And so what they want is, I had some.
The money's going to the wrong places.
I literally had some Negroes on Tesla and Figaro's Instagram page saying that I should not have even gotten any advertising money. I should have done it just because. And I said, Comcast don't say that.
Exactly.
Disney's don't say that. iHeart don't say that. Cumulus don't say that. Sinclair, Nexstar, all the media companies don't say that. I said, so this also, where black people got to be educated. We can't be sitting here wanting black folk.
No, it's a business. That's the first education. It's the biggest business in the country. I mean, so
every publicly traded media company has an earnings call. They say, we fully expect this year to see third and fourth quarter advertising increase by 30% because of political advertising.
Hold on. If those numbers were applied to Target, you'd be boycotting outside of the headquarters right now. That they spend $8 billion and the whole thing is on our back and we only get 2% of that money. The reason why I say you need to point to the consultants and how much money they're making.
Oh, yeah.
Because you combine what BET got, you got, and what everybody else got, it ain't even a fraction of what they walked away with. And by the way, if you dig even deeper into the autopsy, it was clear that they made decisions to line their pockets and to not win the election. This is why I say we've got to share some responsibility with black leadership, because somebody should have read that document and said, wait a motherfucking minute here. This cannot persist on our backs. We can't continue to see the erosion of black support at the expense of these white consultants getting rich.
Right.
Anyway, I'm ready to take questions whenever you are. Oh, sorry, it's your show.
You know that's my job. You know that's my job to do that part.
It's your show.
Okay. You
I always come on your show running your show.
You don't be telling Kristen Welker that. Don't be the press. So don't be coming over here
don't be letting the black girls on your show, okay?
Don't be trying to come over here and run shit. Let me go to Rebecca first.
Hey, good evening. Good to see you again.
Hi, Rebecca.
So my question starts with something that Jamie Harrison just said the other day. So I'm going to read what he said. I'm going to ask and then ask you my question.
Sure.
This is what Jamie Harrison said. I say this with no ill will or animosity. If you hate the Democratic Party, then please don't run for our nomination. Don't use our resources. Don't rely on our volunteers. Don't use our infrastructure. Don't ask Democrats to invest their time, money, and energy in your campaign. Focus on building the party you actually support. Political parties aren't perfect, but they're built by millions of people who knock doors, make calls, organize meetings, fight for the values they believe in. If you don't believe in the party, then don't ask its members to carry you across the finish line. Now, with all respect to Jamie, I started off as an organizer. I've held positions in the party. I've trained thousands of volunteers and candidates across the country. And I've done political projects in over 30 states. This ain't it. So
you know what that was, Rebecca? You know what that was, Rebecca? He was complaining about the Democratic Socialists of America and their wins, and I'm like, say, bro, they organized and mobilized.
They organized and mobilized.
Don't hate.
Don't hate.
Oh, Roland, I know what it is. I know what Fannie Lou Hamer would have said to that.
Right.
I know what Jesse Jackson would have said to that, especially back in the 80s when Jesse was the insurgent and he was the progressive versus the conservative Clinton wing.
Yep.
Unfortunately, the Clinton wing won out. So here's I guess my question, or looking for your comment, is we know people are looking for bold leadership because bellies are empty right now. People are unhoused. People are looking for housing. People are struggling. People are really hurting. And we have a person in the White House who is hell-bent on destroying this country.
Well,
so what do you say to those party leaders who are calling for a purity test while the house is on fire?
I mean, I think it's a waste of energy and time. I've been making the point consistently that the Democratic Party, what it lacks is a vision. And so, love it or not, socialist or not, these candidates that are beating Democratic incumbents and that are winning these primaries have vision. They're speaking directly to the suffering of the American people, of their constituents. They're also coming up with plans proactively to address them. That's why Mondani won. That's why the sister won here in D.C. is because they're laying out a vision. The Democratic Party, there is no clarity around what it stands for, what it's going to do. I mean, all it is right now is an anti-Trump party. It's not giving the base anything to not just mobilize around, to rally around, but even to fundraise on. I mean, that's the thing I find so shocking is look at recently the numbers that the Democrats are sort of negative $124 million compared to Republicans. So I think the ire is in the wrong place. What needs to happen is Jamie needs to turn the mirror on the Democratic Party and ask the party, why are we not laying out a vision? Why are we not providing the American people with a level of confidence that we can do the job come November, any November, pick whichever November it is? I mean, I find most shocking that the Democratic Party is polling at 28%, lower than Donald Trump at his lowest. That speaks to a larger problem that has nothing to do with with members who are running as socialists. Well, so Jamie should focus the attention on that.
Well, I think even when you look at those numbers, those are people looking at national polling. Yet when I begin to look at individual races in these various states,
national polling matter though.
No, I understand national polling matters. What I'm saying is national polling is one thing, but when I begin to look at these individual races that have been happening, mayoral races, special elections, state level as well, and seeing Democrats win, what I keep telling people, these are people who are running in those places who are not running on a D.C., New York talking point agenda.
No, they're creating distance with the Democratic Party.
But what they're also doing, though, my point is they are speaking to what happens in that specific place. And what I keep telling folks, and we're going to talk about this in the second half of the show, when we talk about what took place in New York, is I'm sick of these New York, D.C. people thinking, especially these media people, thinking that a Democratic socialist winning in New York City is going to take over the entire party.
Well, Roland, we saw that in Philly.
No. Hold up. Follow me here.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is...
It's happening everywhere.
No, it's not happening everywhere. What I'm saying is what might happen in New York or in a race in Philly or in a race in D.C. does not translate to Georgia, Ohio, whatever.
Absolutely.
The point is you run based upon where you're located and what resonates with that group of voters. So what may work, so an AOC agenda may work for her district, but not for Sanford Bishop's district. And so they conflate the two.
So, but my point is, if you're the former head of the Democratic Party, what you need to be concerned with is the brain of the Democratic Party as well.
Oh, I get it. No,
right?
First of all, I don't even, but my point, which we'll get to later, is I believe that what Jamie said, what's her name? Tish James, they're complaining about the wrong damn thing. Nobody owns a seat. Voters determine who's in the seat. And if they kick your butt out, there may have been a reason. Larry, your question.
Yeah, this is a really important conversation, and we talked about black men a little bit, and I guess the question is, if you had the resources you needed to pour into, making sure we got black men, they feel appreciated and registered to vote and went out to vote. What do you think how would you focus those resources specifically if, like I said, you had this untapped amount of money to invest in black men and, like I said, the issues they care about? How would you go about strategically in terms of investing in getting black men out to vote?
Okay. So first I want to take a step back to make the point that the Democratic Party, if we just look at 24, for example, outraised the Republican Party. So the resources are there to make these investments. That's the first thing. I need people to understand we're not cash strapped as a party. This is not a scarcity mentality. There's plenty of money to go around and do these investments. That's the first point that we need to clarify to viewers. The second is you have to bring black men into the party. You have to bring them to the table. I can't answer the question. I'm not a black man. I can't even begin to answer the question. Listen, and I'm single and all kind of other stuff. I'm looking for myself, but I can't answer that particular question. Only black men can answer that question. And so the problem with the party has been that we do not bring these voters to the table to understand that it's not Mr. Jeffries' party, it's their party. It's not these elected officials' parties, it's their party. So that's the first thing I would do is, one, accept the fact that do not be dissuaded by any argument that there's not enough money. There's tons of resources. Bring black men to the table and let them drive their own strategy. That's the way to do it.
Greg.
Thanks, Roland, and thank you, Sister Etienne. I'm going to pick up with in the spirit of what's already been asked by Rebecca and by Larry, by Dr. Walker. Yeah, and it's not just New York. Obviously, I don't know if Karen Bass is in trouble, but we saw Chris Van Hollen, that same Chris Van Hollen that Roland had to get with, endorse Dr. El Sayed in Michigan.
Exactly.
So, you know, so my question, not to mention, as you said, Chris Rabb in Philly, but my question has to do with black voters generally, not parsing by gender or class, but by our it seems to me, proclivity to conflate demographic and representation. So the idea that we have to convince folk to go out and vote for James Talarico, I think, how much of that in your mind tracks with looking at the color of the of the candidate rather than the policy of the candidate to make decisions on how to vote? And how does political education, not just advertising, not just door knocking, but really kind of grassroots incremental political organization around policy making, what role does that play to kind of increase the intelligence of our voters so we don't just be picking people because of whether they're black or not, and then deciding that we're not going to vote for somebody because we don't like how black people and white people were talking to each other in Texas?
Yeah, no, I think those are two really great questions. I mean, on the first one, I think the answer is not as simple as complexion. I mean, we're looking at a situation where black people are feeling betrayed by what happened in November. That's the first thing. And then black Texans are feeling even further betrayed. That's compounded by how they felt like Jasmine Crockett was treated. I mentioned earlier, there was a quote in the Houston Chronicle. They interviewed black women, and one said in particular that we give 92% of this party and we don't get anything in return. That's the first time I've ever heard black voters, specifically black women, say that quiet thing out loud, that we are taken for granted. So from my perspective, I think it's less about the race of Talarico, and it's more about how black people feel like we've been betrayed, we've been taken for granted, and we've been ignored by the Democratic Party. Now, to your point about education, it's essential. You know, because what we need to communicate, I think, is not just sort of levels of government, policy, that sort. First, that this is a business, that the party owes this to you, whether in Texas or Philly or nationally. This is what you're owed, you know, that we are owed investment. And the reason why investment matters is, to your point, you've got to have these organizations that are going out and educating black voters. How do they get the capital to do that? Nothing is free in this world. So the way they get the capital to do that is we have to, as black elites, and educate others on the fact that when I talk about the money is not about hiring a consultant, not just about investing money in Roland's business, in his company, to reach more black voters. It is about giving the money to those groups that can then go out and do the work of not the Democratic political party, but build black political power year around. This money is the biggest infusion of capital that we'll see to actually support that infrastructure.
But I think I think what you're saying, though, actually backs up what Greg said. Part of the education process is what you just talked about.
That's what I'm saying.
And
yes.
so those two things have to matter.
That's what I'm saying. Yes.
Now listen, I've had some.
But hold on one second. The reason why I wanted to punctuate that point is because we have to understand that when we talk about $8 billion and 1%, 2% investment, that takes away from our ability to fund these organizations that are actually doing the education of black voters.
Right. And so the thing that we're looking at here, again, and
that's why the money matters.
I've talked to a lot of people in Texas, folks upset because Crockett lost. But also, you got to look at the campaign that was run, okay? It wasn't a strong campaign. And what I also look at is there are 4 Democratic United States senators. 2 are black women, Angela Also Brooks, Lisa Rochester Blunt. And so what we are seeing here, and what I have been saying to African Americans, is that while we're making that argument about what the party should be doing, how are we also funding our own initiatives, our own groups, How are we spending our money? Because when black voters matter, when Until Freedom, when black grassroots groups in Alabama and Georgia, listen, that Freedom Coalition that we put on, All Roads Lead to the South, it's more than 100 people involved in that, all kind of different groups. And so what I've been saying, look, I've been saying to black people, don't send your money to the party, don't send it to a candidate, send it to black voter groups that are on the ground, because what this is about, all this about for me is, and I've been yelling and screaming, and Bishop Barber and I discuss this all the time, is mobilization, organization, not being dependent upon a candidate, not being dependent upon a party, but saying these are the issues that we care about, and how are we going to get people excited. When I look at these the No Kings rallies, I remember there are people who were saying, oh, this is a waste of time. I said, no, if you have a march or a rally and there's a purpose behind it, it serves a purpose. If you are collecting data, if you are taking that event and now moving those people to the next level, it serves a purpose. Now, marching and you ain't collecting data and all you just simply is having the event, to me, is a waste of time. And so that, to me, I think is also important. Now,
so it's an and strategy.
Yes.
Okay. It is, and I need a big, any comparable chunk of that $8 billion, because that's going to be the biggest investment. And I need to make my own investments from my community that I can then control. It's an and strategy.
Right. As far as it's not, for me, it's not either or.
Right. It's an and strategy.
But what I am saying is, while the battle goes on to get part of that $8 billion, there's still coming upon our organizations to utilize our resources. And so when I've been saying D9, Prince Hall Mason, Eastern Star, Links, Jack and Jill, all these different groups that we have, all of our black journalists, black engineers, black scientists, all that sort of stuff like that, we have significant capacity.
Throw in the millionaires, the black billionaires, throw in the real money, not the workers, but the real money.
No. But all those groups also have money.
Sure.
Because we talk about D9, those are self-funded groups. So my point is, we have capacity. The question is, how are we properly utilizing our capacity for the benefit of black people? And so that, to me, is the challenge. And so I just believe that...
You want me to get into what Delta's doing?
Huh?
You want me to... I'm on the board of our D4.
You can get into what Deltas are doing.
But I think we're collectively D9.
What I'm saying, though, is there are instances where Delta should be doing more.
Sure.
AK should be doing more.
Sure.
And there are also opportunities where you also cross-pollinate, because we have all those groups have their GOTV efforts.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, but how many are actually effective?
Okay.
I don't mean you had the event. The question is, are you effective? Okay, how many people did you actually register?
Okay.
Did you actually get the data and break it down by precinct? Did you do it that way? How are we actually doing it? And so...
Can I just say, the reason why this $8 billion matters is because if we can, I don't disagree with anything you said, I think you're 100% right. But what we should be doing, D9, let's just stick with D9, for example. We should be putting our people to work via the campaign, which has already committed the money, to learn how to knock doors, to learn how. So our first investment is from them, and then we run from there. We don't have the money. I mean, I know we got money, but listen, I'm on my board of D4, which is our D4 arm, where we do all of this work. We train candidates, we invest in candidates. We don't have that kind of money. We got money, but it ain't nowhere close to what the party is going to invest on the ground if we can pressure them to do it.
Yes.
Then what we do is we funnel our people through their system to get the training. That's at no cost to us.
We don't even,
and then we maximize on the ground.
But we don't even need to go through their system for the training. We just, seriously, Bishop Barber and I made a call in February to train
but why not, though?
I'm explaining to you.
Okay.
Bishop Barber and I in February made a call to train 1,000 alphas on this very thing.
Sure.
We made that call. We hit that number, but we had non-alphas who hit us up. Non-Greek, we had sisters who hit us up.
We did the same.
And so, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So June 13th, we had the training. Nearly 2,000 people were on that training. It was a virtual training on this very thing.
Same.
Okay?
We had 1,200.
The point I'm making is, I'm not waiting.
Sure.
And so what I'm saying is, while this is happening, while the fight for the $8 billion is over here, we can't wait. The problem.
And we're all doing the work.
But wait a minute. The problem that I've seen with my own eyes all across the country, we have folks who are waiting. And they wait. And I'm saying is, we can't be waiting to see what they're going to do when we are the ones,
don't disagree with that.
when the policies are going to be hurting us.
I don't disagree with that, and I think we are doing it. But what I'm saying
No,
is...
we're not. Not fully.
Well, I mean, your organization is doing it. We're doing it with the Omegas. I mean, a lot of us are doing it. I had 1,200
A lot of us are doing busy work.
But can I
go
say
ahead.
one thing, though? The point is, how do you expand your capacity? 1,200 ain't nothing. Okay, I mean, it's good, but it ain't nothing.
Yeah, but first of all, I can't get to 20,000 unless I do 1,200.
No. How do you get to
100.
20? The way you get to 20 is you say to Talarico, break me off $10 million. I'm going to put it on the ground and I'm going to train. Hold on. Give me a second. All over the state of Texas. I'm going to commit to training 25,000 people. Delta Alpha, we don't have the capacity to train at that level. So you got 25
Delta
in Texas.
Alpha individually does not.
Even collectively, we don't. You just said 1,200. 2,000 were on your call. 1,200 were on mine. That's 3,000 people.
That's not true. Give a perfect example. 2011, a voter suppression bill was passed in Ohio. And what they did was they said they needed 300,000 signatures to get it on the 2012 ballot. And so when I moderated in 2011, the D9 CBC panel that Congresswoman Marsha Fudge put together, all the presidents were there, plus the Panhellenics were there. Okay, they were all there. And so when I put that out there, and they were like, okay, we weren't aware of that. So Fudge is like, well, go. I'm like, no, we're going to stay right here. And so I pressed all of them on it. When they met the next day.
You're talking about signatures.
One second.
Okay.
Hold on. These were all the national presidents.
But signatures.
Follow me here.
I'm
just listen.
I just want to make sure I'm clear.
300,000 signatures to put the initiative on the ballot.
Got it.
When they met the next day, they actually realized when they counted that there were 120 D9 chapters alone in the state of Ohio.
Right.
They were all shocked. And what I'm arguing is, what often happens is we don't even fully recognize what our capacity is because we're operating in silos. So when you're talking about going to Talarico or going to a party or going to, and it's not even right now, the issue is not even really going to a Talarico. Really what's going on here, and I've had this conversation with folks who sit with these donors. You have these billionaire donors who literally only listen to a handful of consultants who tell them where to spend their money.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, and the fact is, the money doesn't even really go to the parties anymore. It goes to these outside PACs and these other groups. And what we have to do is, to your point, as collective power, go to a candidate or a donor or a group.
All of them, the IEs too, put everybody.
But what I'm saying is, we can't do it as one person going.
Absolutely.
Imagine if that block of black leadership goes and says, here's the deal. That to me is so. But a lot of our folks are moving in silos.
Absolutely, and we're not in disagreement. Right. My only point is, how do you expand your capacity? Right? Yeah. So we can do so much collectively. We need to get to that point. But the way you grow and expand your capacity is I shake out all that money so that I can invest it in expanding our capacity on the ground. Hold on. So that you build the infrastructure that was built in Georgia, okay, that stays behind after the election.
But the Georgia infrastructure was not a party apparatus.
Exactly.
It wasn't a campaign apparatus.
Right.
And that's really what Black Voters Matter has made it perfectly clear, where they said, it's actually organizing 365. And unfortunately, in too many of our cities and states, it's only built around that campaign where we turn it on, we turn it off, and then it does nothing. And to Greg's point there, when you have those organizations that are 365, then you are educating on policy year-round. One of my biggest complaints about the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation is you have this annual event in September, 20, 30, 40,000 people go through there, and I don't get a single email from them between October and the following August about policy that's going on. And even though they're a foundation...
Let alone what they're doing, a message, I mean, all these
Even
things.
though they're a foundation, they don't have to give me a partisan stance, but how about you send me information on bills that we talked about at the CBCF and update on what's going on? So what's the whole point of having 30, 40,000 gather if you do nothing with that database? And I actually wrote that column 20 plus years ago when Mel Watt was the chair, and they were a little angry with me when I wrote it. So understand, I've been pissing them off.
Not much has changed.
I've been pissing them off for a long time. and that database still has not been created. So it's a way
or weaponized.
Yeah. So it's like, what the hell?
What are we doing? I agree with you.
So
we
that's
got to get our own house in order. There's no doubt about it. But my point is, I'm mostly focused on, as we should be, the marginalization. I think what is the resentment to a degree toward black staffers within the Democratic Party. And a lack of commitment and prioritization of our issues and investment in the infrastructure. The autopsy said basically to some degree that we've not organized and invested in building black infrastructure on the ground since Jesse in the 80s. That's unbelievable to even think that if you just raised $8 billion in 2 years, 16 in 4, and we still haven't organized. And it's not about electing a white senator. It is about us taking care of us. It is about us investing in building our own black political power that can be weaponized in an array of ways, like Jesse taught us. I mean, so I don't know if anyone else has any questions.
You gonna do that bullshit again? Don't get cut.
I just try to move the show along.
I don't need you to move the show on. I don't need you to move the show on.
Okay, listen.
What's that name right there? What's that name right there? What's that name right there? Again,
Before you know it, but mine will be next to it.
I want to see you do that shit. I want to see you tell Kristen Welker that on Meet the Press when you on there on Sundays. Let's see if that happens. All right, Ashley Etienne. Folks, we were talking about organizing and mobilizing. That's going to be happening on July 4th. When the country is celebrating its 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Yet Next 250 has launched a nationwide multi-year initiative aiming to use this anniversary to bring people together around shared values and critical issues. The goal is to imagine and build a future centered on justice, belonging, dignity, democracy, and independence. On Saturday, Next 250 will host All of Us 250, a nationwide day of action focused on truth, equality, and freedom. It will include rallies and protests across the nation, culminating in a gathering in Washington, D.C. Joining us right now is Tiffany Lofton and Carmen Perez-Jordan, both of them with Next 250. Carmen, you were one of the co-chairs of the Women's March, that massive gathering where, most importantly, like I always keep talking about, data. And so y'all are gathering, y'all are meeting, but how are you taking this event beyond that day and where it is an organization and a mobilization tool?
Well, thank you so much, Roland, for having me. It's always like coming home when I come and I talk to you about the work that we're doing, and I just want to say thank you for always welcoming us. For me, I want to just share that this work has started 3 years ago. So what we're doing June 27th is we're doing a celebration of all the work that has happened the last 3 years. For the last 3 years, we have convened over 100 organizations in 36 states and did listening sessions where we gathered the information, and that is culminated into a Declaration of Interdependence. We then did a launch here in September of last year where we revealed the Declaration of Interdependence and then began having town halls to bring the Declaration of Interdependence to life in our communities. And now we're culminating here in Washington, D.C. on Saturday, and it's going to be a celebration of our shared history, but also putting forth a bold vision for the future. What does the next 250 years look like for our communities? And so we've gone from Puerto Rico to Hawaii, who are all coming to Washington, D.C. We have some folks right now here that have joined us, and we're going to have amazing speakers. We're going to have performances. We're going to have face painting for the kids. It's a family-friendly event, but this is really about building political power through our values.
Tiffany, so DC is central, but how many other events will be taking place across the country for the folks who can't travel here?
Yeah, there's going to be a couple of things. One, folks can tune in virtually, so they'll be able to join us there. And then we have a bunch of actions on our website. You can also sign up to keep in contact with the movement and the cause. And as Carmen said, not only is it a family-friendly event, but there are going to be dozens of other organizations that are going to be at the actual rally. who are registering people to vote. They're going to be sharing their demands. We have 7 pillars where we're talking about fair wages, education for all, dignity and respect to protest, women's reproductive choice and health care, all of the things that our communities have said out loud through this listening session that they care about. And through this tabling, folks will be able to sign up to join organizational causes, sign up for campaigns, sign up as volunteers, and figure out ways to plug in. Roland, on this show, you talk so often about people finding political homes. And our opportunity, as Carmen said, to bring this together to talk about the next 250 years, we know that part of our organizing strategy and methodology is that people have to not just gather and have a good time this Saturday, but after the event is over, stay plugged into those organizations.
Right, and that's the thing that drives me crazy when these events take place.
They don't do nothing afterwards.
They piss me off.
Yeah. Wait, real quick. I know you're gonna ask me later, but I'm gonna do it now since people listen in case they hang up. They can sign up and join our listserv right now at next250.us. And then at the event, we have QR codes. There's going to be a sign, a stage, and people can sign in and register there. We have, I don't know how many buses come in. I don't want to make it up.
I know. We have probably like around 17 buses that are coming from the East Coast, anywhere from Baltimore, a couple from New York. Chicago, Jersey,
Maryland, Virginia. Yeah, we got a bunch of buses coming. And all those folks have also given us their information and contact information and signed up for the bus as well to join us on that day and traveling in on Saturday.
The reason...
and rain or shine, we doing this, by the way.
The reason I keep... I'm fixated on that, and again, Bishop Barber and I, we're always talking about it, is because...
in the group chat, I know.
For me, everything is micro-macro.
Yeah.
It's micro-macro. So if 50,000, 100,000 people come to Washington, D.C., but then you know where they're coming from. You have their zip codes. Now, all of a sudden, the issues that are being addressed, the issues that are being talked about, so when something happens in that state or something happens in that county, in that city, then you already have the data to be able to say, oh, we've got 300 people from that county or from that city who participated. So we can now hit those folks direct, tell them what's happening in their county or city, and say, tie into this particular group because we need you showing up at the city council meeting or the school board meeting or the county commissioners meeting. If you don't have that data, what you're doing is you're now trying to replicate what you did, and you hope folks show up, and then you go there, well, I hope we have 30 or 40 people. And that to me is just one of the biggest mistakes that I keep seeing when we're asked to cover these events. And I'm kind of like, all right, we covered it, but what the hell did you do with it? Okay, you had a day of speeches. Great. People, each person limited to 3 minutes or whatever. Okay, I'm always like, what's next? What are you doing with the next? What happens on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? Has that been really a large part of the planning and the thinking to really understand that?
It has been, and like I mentioned, we started 3 years ago. This was a vision that Linda and Saru had. They were thinking about what are we going to be doing in the 250th anniversary, and is it going to be representative of us? And so we decided.
And we already see it's not. It's
we
white.
already know it's not. But what we did is we convened about 50 organizations, and after we convened the 50 organizations, we set on these listening sessions where we then began to extract these values. And from these values came this Declaration of Interdependence. And then we're like, yo, we're going to have our own celebration, mobilization, but we also need to get to work. And what we're hoping is that this declaration can be something that communities and individuals use locally to hold their elected officials accountable, or to also organize their elected officials towards values that they believe in. And every bus has a bus captain, but they're also connected to organizations. We were having informational sessions on a weekly basis with people that just signed up to let them know all the organizations that were a part of this demonstration. We also have them on our website so that people could plug in. And we're also letting people know if you're not able to make it to Washington, D.C., which we hope everyone can make it, you could plug into a local event that's going to happen. But beyond Saturday, there is going to be local organizing. There are going to be town halls. There are going to be conversations. We have speakers that are doing work around gun violence, like Tiffany said. And people who are impacted by that, we want them
to make sure that they're connected to those folks. But there's also QR codes. We're asking people, sign the declaration, give us your information. They're going to get an email right after, and we're going to plug them into what's happening locally across the country. I have a question for Tiffany. Then on the panel, I'm coming to you next. As Carmen was talking, literally what she was describing was when I interviewed Reverend James Lawson, and he talked about the Nashville movement. And what he said is, he said they spent 3 months meeting, discussing why they wanted this movement. He said, then they spent 3 months talking about what they wanted to do. And the reason that was so instructive, because what probably drives me crazy the most is when you get a really great group of smart, energetic folk, and you meet for 2 or 3 hours. At the end of the meeting, they've already gotten an Instagram page, a website, plans to open a P.O. box, a bank
donation
account,
link, right?
And all of that. And you sitting there and you like, but what are we actually doing? And that probably is what drives me crazy the most. And so what you laid out, so significant thought has been put into this. To say that, hey, this has been a 3-year process.
Roland, you're making me want to yell and scream right now because
you've been in many of them damn groups. You're like, what are we doing?
And then I try to Homer Simpson my way into the bushes.
And 6 weeks later,
nothing.
It's gone.
Nothing. Okay, well, let me say in the short amount of time I'm gonna have, let me say a couple things. One is, as Carmen mentioned, this is a 3-year development. Because we know, and this is what, and also I don't know if folks know this, Carmen went to UC Santa Cruz, I went to UC Santa Cruz after this is my big sister right here. We both went through grass organizing weekend training.
You old.
I did not say that, that's my big sister.
That's
my big sister.
Tiffany does that, but she petty like that.
You know what's crazy is that she's known me longer than you, so she know I didn't mean that.
Yeah,
so listen, so what happens is this.
I
didn't
get called auntie. So, you know.
Which is wild because I'm also an auntie, which is crazy. So that does say a lot about both of y'all.
I'm call Uncle Roro, but go ahead.
I call you Uncle Roland all the time. So here's the thing. 3 years of that process, I'm so grounded in you bringing up Reverend James Lawson, God rest his soul.
Thank you.
Because her mentor, Harry Belafonte, who's on this beautiful mural, and then both of y'all being my mentors, and these pieces around organizing strategically, not just so a group of people can get on the phone and ask themselves, what do they want to do? The bigger question, as we all understand, is what are we going to win?
Yeah. Right.
It's not what are you going to do, because everybody can do. And I just said this, we call ourselves in the war room, or I don't know if that's secret, but we have this war room where we're sitting around the table and we are strategizing all day today about how this event is going to go well, what are all the things that can happen bad, and then how are we going to address and solve those problems, and whose voice is missing from the table that we haven't yet included in the last couple of discussions, and how do we make sure we honor DC, because we're coming to the nation's capital, and people focus so much on the White House, which is not the focus of the thing. There is a community, and you and I know this because we've lived here so long, there is a community of people in DC. How do we honor those people that are here and the culture of DC and the folks who are grounded here so that we can bring them to the table to welcome us to their home, because we believe in honoring the land that we are on. So I say this, I said this earlier today, the people who do that, who do the do. Let's make an Instagram page. Let's make a website. Let's make a donation. I really just genuinely believe that those folks who go from ambulance to ambulance to ambulance are the folks who really don't know how to organize because they don't know what they want to win. And they don't know how to get what they want to win. We are very clear. We are aligned. Whether or not we like it, there is a big, I can't cuss here. I ran this morning 6.5 miles around the National Mall. And I tried to take a shortcut through one of the National Mall streets to get back to my hotel and couldn't because the National Guard has taken over the entire National Mall in Washington, D.C. There is a Ferris wheel, a rodeo, a stadium for fireworks, and all these things. Whether or not we like it, this administration and Donald Trump is trying to set us on a trajectory of danger and change that erases our entire 250th history.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And so Linda and Carmen said, when they first called me months ago, they said, listen, whether or not we like it, this is what he's doing. And we know for a fact our people are not going to be there.
Right. Yeah.
So we need the alternative. It's happening at McPherson Square this Saturday at 11 a.m. We want everybody to be there, and it is all led by people of color. And I was like, oh yeah, we need to make sure that the question is always asked, when they look back, what are they going to say we was doing? This is what we were doing. And the strategy leading up to this has been in the long works because not just as a response to what's happening to the 50 years, but a declaration of interdependence says we are responsible for the future that we want to hold. Not being reactive to all the problems that are happening, but saying here's what our agenda is going to be. And I really, really want all of our people to get on board with that, because the more that we can have a radical imagination, Linda talks about this, a radical imagination and a bigger agenda, I think the better off we'll be in taking care of ourselves, and the more successful we'll be in our movements. But when people want to get together and have a march over here and a march over here and a march over here and a march over here, it depletes our people.
Right.
Yeah. Because how many people, it ain't hard for us to recruit people to come to this. Yeah. Because all the people who are coming to this are not the three of us. I mean, we'll be there, but it's not the three of us. The audience for this are all the folks who want to get involved in now, because all of our organizing is rooted in, we have to have constant ways to bring people into the movement. This is a new way to welcome folks. And people are going to be able to build. When I saw you in Montgomery, Roland, in the heat, it was 185,000 degrees in Montgomery, and everybody was passing out and it was sweating. And yes, it was. It was hot.
All you need is a big hat.
No.
Sweat towel.
Y'all know I'm from LA, baby. We don't do whatever that heat was. I don't understand. But when I got there, what did I do? Ran up there and gave you a hug. I saw Latasha, gave her a hug. I saw April, gave her a hug. Saw Cliff, gave her a hug. Because it's an opportunity for us to connect in person again. We're not alone. And all the virtual Zoom stuff is cute for a little while, but we have to come outside and be together in person. So this is an opportunity to welcome new people.
Questions from the panel.
Hey, Rebecca. Hey, Dr. Carr.
You might be from LA, but your ass country as hell. Let me go to Larry. You left out Larry. Let me go to Larry.
I'm sorry,
first.
Larry. Hey, brother.
That's fine. Hey, how you doing?
I'm wonderful,
Listen,
love.
I appreciate all the work he's doing. And so you talked a little bit about the time it took to organize this, and you have a post-event strategy. But one of the components I want to talk about, maybe this is QR code and some of the other information, your demographic information you're collecting, is the financial impact, specifically in terms of how are people donating? What are some of the ways in which people can support this event? And like I said, the work you do after.
We would love for people to donate. You could go to our website, www.next250.us/donate. But we've been supported by foundations, and we've been able to give that money back to the community that has been with us for the last 3 years. We gave $10,000 to every organization that held a listening session because we believed that their work was valuable. And we're going to continue to organize. We're going to continue to bring people to the fold. One thing that I will say about the last 3 years, I think often about, the future we're trying to build. I think about a 6-year-old young boy in 1931 who was deported to a country he wasn't from. That was my father. My father was born in Anaheim, California. And I often think about who was around him, who was protecting him, that long ago. And I want to be the generation that protects the future. And I believe that what we're doing is something that is bold, and I think that it's something that brings people together. And I also believe that when people show up, that's the biggest financial investment that you could make for our communities, is showing up. And we're inviting people to come June 27th because we need everybody there.
Rebecca.
So I have a question.
I like those glasses,
Very
sis.
nice to meet you.
Hi.
Thank you. Now, Tiffany,
You
here's
just
my
get
question.
sidetracked.
I get so comfortable here. You got to stop inviting me. I know everybody's family here. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Rebecca.
It's all good. So here's my question. I want to have a Gideon moment with you. So I know you heard that last segment, and you heard Ashley, you heard Roland talk about, it's just 2,500 people that were trained. And so we know as organizers. So Tiffany, I'm going to ask you a question. If you were able to do a virtual train the trainer of 10,000 people across the country, and they in turn were able to do movement work in their communities, how would that impact people's everyday lives if we actually had that level of investment just with 10,000 people? It doesn't have to be 100,000 people that get trained. It could just be 10,000 people who go through a train the trainer.
I want to make sure that the people listening understand a little bit of organizing language. So, because you said train the trainer, and I don't think everybody knows what that is, and that's high level, right? So it's one thing to invite everybody to a webinar to come and do a training or hear a workshop or be a part of a webinar to learn about policy. It's another thing to teach people how to fish on their own in their own communities, and not only give them a curriculum and a skill set to say, here's how you train your people, but to empower folks. People think sometimes or assume sometimes that the work we do is performative, and that they can just if they train a group of people, I can train a group of people too. Mm-mm. But what I know from experience is that this is a discipline. It is an art. It is a practice. And all of us need to be trained on how to do a training. We need to be trained on how to train other people. We need to be trained on being able to feel a room of people that we are training, and then understand what people's different learning styles are, what their needs are, what their experiences, asking them what their experiences have been, and then finding out ways to make the training applicable to people in the room or virtually who are going to receive that information. I have taught classes at UC Santa Cruz. I have trained at the AFL-CIO, NEA, NAACP, American Federation of Teachers, American Federation of Association of Flight Attendants, and all of the people that I have trained. There have been, when I was younger, people have said, I understand the information, and I was really excited about how you presented it. I have no idea how to use it. I have no idea how to use this information you just gave me. And so a train the trainer for 10,000 people would be revolutionary. Because what that says is we are finding the people in the community who want to lead and train other folks. We are going to not only give them the material, but give them the skill set and practice on how to lead and train their people, because they are the best messengers. And then those folks will be able on their own time to then delegate what that strategy, practice, and methodology is. How do you build a campaign plan? How do you power map in your community so that you can find out who the decision maker is? How do you build a plan so that you can build a strong organization? How do you do leadership development? I mean, that's literally the relationships that we have learned and we have practiced. How do you have a one-on-one with somebody? How do you understand somebody's personal interests? How do you agitate just enough so you can get somebody to say yes instead of no? And if we could do that for 10,000 people, then that multiplication of those 10,000 turns into 1 million. Yeah. That 1 million turns into 10 million. That 10 million turns into 300 million. And that would be so revolutionary. I will say that my only addition to your question, to myself, to us, is we are so comfortable with doing things virtually. And the best part about the National Mobilization and the Next 250 that we're doing this Saturday is that all of their sessions were in person. And we have to connect with our people in person so that because they have to recognize authenticity. Me and Carmen was just talking, I got emotional and I was like trying to fan my face because I was trying not to cry. Because I've known her for so long and she's known me since I was so young that like there is a relationship here. If we go 2 months without talking to each other, I got my back and I got her back and she got mine. Because we have a trust there because we've seen each other in person. This ain't no virtual relationship. This ain't no Zoom contract that we've been sitting here working on. Like, this is my girl, right? And so I think if we were to do a mass mobilization like that, we do have to figure out the in-person component to it, because I think since the pandemic, a lot of us have gotten comfortable with virtual, and that's a little bit of a lazy, it's also cost efficient, but it is a little bit of a lazy way for us to be able to explain things to people and get people to use their hands.
But also virtual is great, but virtual does not allow for you to build intimate relationships. No. Because usually what happens in
He said that again for all the dudes on the apps and the dating stuff and all that. Can we pivot for 2 seconds? Can you just tell people that's trying to date virtually that we just want to be outside in person so I can get to know you while we sit at the table and have a real conversation so I can understand what your politics are, as opposed to me checking to see if you got kids, a Christian, believing liberal, Republican, whatever. That's why I got off the apps, Roland. It's not working.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna read this, but
oh Lord, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
What are you doing?
Before I go to Greg, I was not gonna read this, but he is not lying.
What are you doing?
Hold on, let me find. Torius Grantham put on the message board. Tiffany needs a sedative. She's hyper as fuck. I know kids that don't have this level of hyperactivity. Love her, but it's like she has a Sears diehard battery in her back. So I
Can you please can you screenshot that for me,
No,
please?
don't be talking about Tiffany like that.
Thank you, sis.
First
of all,
Thank you.
I was trying not. I know.
Also, does he think I'm a kid? I'm almost 40.
I was trying not to read it, but that was funny as hell. But the point I was saying,
I do got a battery in my bed.
The point I was making is that when we meet in person, what often happens is there are conversations that happen outside of the actual sessions.
Yeah.
So you actually get to know somebody, you begin to understand somebody, and that's the piece that I don't think people understand. When I all of the interviews that I've done, when I've studied the movement, the Black Freedom Movement, it wasn't about the event. It was about, okay, how did you build a lasting movement? And that's the key. I think what drives me crazy. Listen, Mr. Farrakhan and I had that conversation after the first Million Man March when we had the 10th anniversary march. It was a very frank conversation about what didn't work and what failed. And we had the same discussion at he came on my TV One show, the 20th, about what took place in the previous 10 years. And so I'm just a firm believer of I'm personally tired. I think a lot of people are tired of gatherings that don't end up having results.
Yeah.
1 year, 5 years, 10 years down the road. That's why a lot of stuff people invite me to cover. I said, no, invite me to the 6 month follow up.
You always do. Yeah.
I'm like, don't do. I'm not gonna come to the news conference.
Yeah.
Invite me to the 6 month.
There was a town hall you got invited to, and you said you wasn't going. Invite me to the thing afterwards.
Yeah, I was
remember.
being straight up because again, it's a lot of that. And my whole deal is we need results. And I think the reason people are frustrated with politics, the reason they're frustrated with civil rights groups or other groups, is that they're not seeing the results of all of the speeches and the work. They want to see what actually changed. Greg Carr.
That goes back to Rebecca's question and the conversation you had earlier too about elected officials. They want to see results, but they just want to engage with you when it's election time.
Right.
And not give you the things
Greg?
Hey, Dr. Carr.
Hey, what's going on, Tiff? It's good to see you, sis. And hey, Sister Carmen. And he had to put you on blast like that. You're going to get medicated.
I'm not offended. Y'all know I ain't on nothing. I ain't worried about him.
I know. I'm just going to go ahead and pin that to the top.
You are.
See?
You know I'm petty. I'm King Petty.
Somebody screenshot that, please, and send it to me.
I got it.
For all the new people who are watching tonight, just know that they love each other very dearly and they just love each other. That's all. But I was really, as always, inspired and instructed, Tiffany, when you share with us what you're doing. And Carmen, when you talked about your father and talked about the fact that we have to be bold and we have to do this together in this Declaration of Interdependence, quite frankly, and Tiffany knows this, the United States is not going to be here in 250 years. Yeah. I wouldn't bet on it being here another 50 years in its current configuration. But looking at the people that you're bringing together, including a couple of dozen indigenous nations, folks from El Salvador, any thoughts on really us finally having the confrontation with the fact that this really isn't about the founding ideals of this country, because the founding ideals of this country are white nationalism. And we saw Stephen Miller slither out from under his rock today to talk about New York City being half immigrants and LA's the same and they've lost the plot. You're white supremacist, sir, and we should break your political back. I suspect that the people that you all are bringing together, and I'm going to try to get down there this weekend myself. I think I'll be in town. I'll certainly be watching online if I'm not in town, but I want to see this, as you say, in person. A lot of where we are now, and you allude to this on the website with words like culture, words like narrative, we're down to a fundamental renegotiation of this entire project, this entire criminal enterprise. How much of this interdependence really goes beyond notions of like citizenship or patriotism and really are about having a conversation and working together to create a fundamentally different society, the kind of thing that doesn't just excite young people, but excites old people like me, excites all those movement activists, brings us back to the real central tenets of the Rainbow Coalition. I'm talking about Fred Hampton and the poor whites and the young lords, and then before Jesse and all that. How much of this is really about having that serious conversation that will ignite the fire, that will help finally maybe get us to the point we can create a new society out of all this?
I come from the school of Harry Belafonte and Nane Alejandres from Barrios Unidos, and I go into prisons. And I think one of the things that I will say about this process is the fact that my elder, who's in his 70s, is here with me in D.C. He flew from Santa Cruz, and when I was coming here, I greeted him in the lobby. And, so this is an intergenerational movement. The work that we do isn't just for one specific community, but it's intergenerational. We're guided by our elders. And I think that's the excitement, is the fact that what we extracted from these listening sessions is the fact that we are more aligned than we are divided as a country. We want to live with dignity. We want opportunities in our community. We also want to feel like we belong. There's this thing about belonging in the United States. You could be here for 9 generations and you're still considered something else. You're still a foreigner in your own land. And that's me as a Chicana, but I do believe I think I'm a hope dealer. I do believe that we could create a society where we are, I don't want to use the word tolerant because that's not the right word, but that we have the ability to come together. And I think we have witnessed this throughout these years, right? We have trans Latinas out of Los Angeles, women that were incarcerated doing listening sessions, people that were recently deported to El Salvador. And every conversation was about, we want something different, but we could build it. We don't need government to build it for us. We don't need systems to build it for us. We can actually build it together. And when we heard from the students from Newark, the young men that were like, we want to be able to walk down the block without getting shot. I mean, that is real. That is real in our communities, and that's something that can actually happen because there are some communities that don't have that type of problem in it. And so I do believe that we could build something. I think a lot about what you were saying. Ruby Dee had come to a gathering that Harry Belafonte had convened when it wasn't the Gathering for Justice. She said, I've come to places like this so many times and I leave without an assignment. So everything that we do is about a purpose. That was a meeting in Atlanta. That was a meeting in Atlanta. And that was 21 years ago when Mr. Belafonte had founded the Gathering for Justice. And I truly believe that we are in a moment in our lives that either we wait for somebody to come save us, which is not the way in which we roll, but we're going to do something. And I think a lot about the future generations. I think about my own children. I have a 5 and a 7-year-old. I'm not waiting for them to save this planet, to make sure there's a living wage, to make sure that their mommy could have access to repro rights. I believe that it is my responsibility to make sure that they have that. And it's going to continue that way because there's a lot of us who are willing to stand on the front lines to make sure that that happens. And so I am, I know that maybe the planet won't or the U.S. won't exist, but I do believe that there's going to be a different type of community that we have that is interdependent because I don't live independent of anybody,
Tiffany.
I really shouldn't go after that. That's where we should drop the mic right there. Dr. Carr's question made me think how if we were to maybe poll the population and ask our Black folks how many folks don't believe America gonna be here in the next 50 years, people would get scared. I really think that I think that we're having this conversation and I am ready for America to be gone in 50 years, so us to have a new thing. But even during the Black Lives Matter movement, we were saying abolish the police and defund the police. People could not conceptualize what that looked like just yet. And so part of this radical imagination that we're bringing on Saturday to this space is not just again, let's think about the last 250 years, which deserves homage and honor and respect and sometimes grief and a lot of other things. But it is
also honesty.
But it requires truth and honesty. But it also requires us to think about the next 250 in a way in which we've never thought about it before. Right. So as Carmen said, it's not just I don't want to get shot on the side of the street. It's not just I want a fair wage. In 250 years, none of us will be here anymore. So do we want to just pass on to the next generation of folks what America looks like but a little bit better? Or are we trying to really imagine a different direction that is interdependent, where we are all interdependent of each other? And it's uncomfortable. It can be scary. People might not have answers. But in the work that we do, as Carmen said, she's the hope dealer, this is literally what we do. This is what we're trying to help people understand, is that there is a new agenda, that there's going to be a new world in which we want to create together and that we can live in. And it doesn't have to be constrained to the limitations of what we've been through.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I sounded like Kamala Harris just now, didn't I?
No,
Ew, sorry.
the thing that I do want to add is the fact that what we learned from these listening sessions, it was the first time that our communities were asked to imagine a 250-year, or even think about the next 5 years. Oftentimes, our communities aren't given the resources or given the time to actually think, because we're in such
defensive
survival,
mode.
right? We're surviving in our communities. So I will say just I hope that one day we're able to release the information from the listening sessions. And I also really hope that people get to experience June 27th at McPherson Square, because that is a place where we're trying to actually create how it would feel in the next 250 years. We want to create a space of belonging. We want to create a space where our children are able to laugh again without being in fear. We're going to feed people. We're also going to pass out snow cones, and we're going to listen to these amazing speakers and performers, and it's going to be a moment of joy, and I think our community deserves that.
So I think one of the, as both of you were talking and listening to Greg's question there, there's a book that we're working on right now. It'll draw out pre-sale in September. Will drop in February, and it really speaks to moving forward. And one of the reasons why the themes continue to come back on this show, in terms of when I'm challenging our organizations, I'm challenging how we spend our money, what we spend it on, is because one of the big reasons why our major groups, our civil rights groups, cannot do what we want them to do is because they're funded by corporate America. They are controlled by external forces. And so that's who they answer to. And when you answer to external forces, then you can't reimagine. You can't, why are you looking like that, Tiffany? You can't reimagine. You can't think about this thing in a different way because you're constrained. You talk about Larry Belafonte in his book. Why did he say he took care of his money the way he did? He said, because I did not want them to do to me what they did to Paul Robeson. They took Robeson's passport. He could not earn a living, and he couldn't get hired in this country. The previous conversation we had, the top of the show, the conversation we had about temporary status and impact on Haitian and Syrians in this conversation, is also precisely why 8 years ago in September, why I said we have to create this show. And the reality is, and this is no shade on other folks who created shows, but the reality is there is no other show, black owned or hosted by somebody black, that has these type of conversations that are not what they're talking about. And creating this place, having this studio, being able to have the dialogue is important, because again, when we are dependent upon them saying yes, because I take it MS Now, CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox News, News Nation, OAN, Newsmax, I take it they're not having this level of conversation.
Absolutely not.
And this is the thing that our folks have to understand. And then the entertainment vehicles that we all love to watch and listen to aren't having the same conversation. And look, I appreciate entertainment, I appreciate music, I appreciate movies, I appreciate all of that. But I've said for years, we're literally laughing ourselves to death, because things are happening all around us, and we are fixated on comedy shows, award shows, reality shows, the latest fashion thing, the latest gossip, and real shit is happening. And then when it happens, folks go, oh my God, why didn't we know? Because your ass was paying attention to bullshit.
Come on.
And so people really have to understand we are in a significant moment in American history. This extreme court decisions that they are making are real. Their decisions, if this court does not change, the makeup of this court, literally, if you talk about if Alito and Thomas, if they step down with Republicans still in charge of the Senate and the White House, they are going to solidify this extreme court for the next 50 years. I need people to understand, how old is your child?
He's 5, and one is 5, one is 7.
Okay, that means that your 7-year-old may not see a new court until he's the same age as I am right now, which is 57. See, we need to,
or longer.
We need people to understand that. This is not, the next election. No. What is happening right now is literally, how can we control this nation for the next 50 to 100 years? Because a Stephen Miller, a Donald Trump, maggots, the Republicans in the House and the Senate, these governors, they actually are scared to death of a reimagined U.S.
Oh, of course.
They want the last 250 to be another 250. And so that's what this is all about. And so this is the moment where our folks must be extremely serious about what's going on, because what is happening right now, this gathering on Saturday, the subsequent meetings, literally is going to determine what this country looks like the next 50 to 100 years. What's happening today. And what I say all the time is come from the book of Nehemiah. There were people who rebuilt the wall. There were haters. There were people who actually did the work. Their names are mentioned. You read it. These people built this portion of the gate. They're mentioned. And this is a moment that people have to decide, will my name be called in 50 years? Or when they do the roll call, will my name not be called? And then their grandkids be asking them, grandmother, grandfather, where was your ass at?
What'd you do to protect democracy?
What were you doing?
Exactly.
And if your answer is that you were at brunch, or you were watching reality shows, or you were caught up in the latest bullshit, you gonna have to answer.
That's right.
To your grandkids. Where were you when it was burning? What were you doing? That's the question people have to ask themselves. Saturday, McPherson Square, June 27th.
11 a.m.
Where can they go to get more information?
www.next250.us.
That's right.
And we also will be carrying the stream, if I'm correct.
Yes.
So y'all got that all coordinated? All right, cool. Just making sure. So y'all, that's happening on Saturday, June 27th, 11 a.m. Carmen, Tiffany, I certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much, folks. Time for Black Star Network Headlines with Brittany Noble.
The death of a 27-year-old Black woman found hanging from a tree near Gwen Cherry Park in Miami-Dade has been ruled as a suicide, but her family says that they are not convinced. Questions have swirled on social media about the death of Tonia Miller, who was found dead on June 18th after she had traveled to Miami to celebrate Juneteenth. Miami-Dade Sheriff Office said that it does not suspect foul play, but has not provided further details about her death. Miller's family says it's seeking an independent autopsy now. Some medical marijuana patients in Alabama are now being required to take monthly pregnancy tests, the only state in the country with such a law. The new state policy applies for women between the ages of 11 and 50. Patients who refuse the tests can lose access to their marijuana prescriptions. Women who test positive risk criminal charges under Alabama's chemical endangerment law passed, which bans drug use during pregnancy. The law also bans doctors from recommending medical marijuana to pregnant patients. The state is also mandating that doctors who recommend medical marijuana to pregnant patients will be banned. Michigan's only all-women's prison is facing backlash after an incarcerated woman alleged that she was made seriously ill by black mold inside the facility. Crystal Clark says that she has struggled to breathe and experienced rashes, swelling, and headaches, even saying that mold is growing from her ears. The Michigan Department of Corrections says testing did not find widespread toxic mold at the Women's Huron Valley Correctional Facility, but advocates say this situation brings broader questions about healthcare, living conditions, and accountability inside the prisons. A Georgia woman was wrongfully declared dead while recovering from congestive heart failure by the Social Security Administration. Adrienne Wells Chapman was still recovering in the hospital when she discovered that the Social Security Administration had listed her as having died in September of 2025. Now that government mistake has upended her life. She lost access to her bank account, Medicaid coverage, and food assistance benefits. Without Medicaid coverage, Wells Chapman began receiving large medical bills, including one bill from Emory totaling $48,000. while another one from Piedmont reached $52,000. The Social Security Administration said they are reviewing the situation. Former Social Security Commissioner Martin O'Malley said staffing reductions contributed to processing delays and clerical mistakes affecting recipients. A GoFundMe campaign for Wells Chapman has raised about $1,500 so far. And local officials in Mississippi rejected an attempt to rename a country road in honor of a Black World War II veteran gunned down in what is believed to be the first killing by the White Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. Clifton Walker was fatally shot in February of 1964 by the KKK while driving home. At the time, both Wilkinson County Constable Gordon Bud Jeter and Klansman Ed Fuller were considered suspects in the case, but prosecutors refused to charge them. Last month, Walker's family asked local officials to consider changing the name of the road where he had been killed from Poorhouse Road to Clifton Earl Walker Road. But on Monday, the Wilkinson County Board of Supervisors rejected the request, saying that a majority of the residents who lived on the road were opposed to the name change.
All right, folks, be sure to catch Brittany Noble every day on The Breakdown. Brittany Noble, noon Eastern on the Black Star Network. Again, every day, noon Eastern on the Black Star Network. Folks, that is it for us. Fantastic show. I appreciate all of y'all for watching the show. Be sure to support the work that we do by joining our Bring the Funk fan club. Your resources are critically important for us to do the work that we do. Let me thank, first of all, Larry, Rebecca, and Greg for being on today's show. I certainly appreciate it. We did not get to our conversation regarding the Democratic Socialists of America. We will have that conversation tomorrow. Trust me, we're going to be having that conversation a lot more. So, again, I appreciate y'all joining us. If you want to give via Cash App, use a Stripe QR code. You see it right here. If you're listening, go to blackstarnetwork.com. That's for credit cards as well. Checks and money order. Make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003 7-0196. PayPal, R. Martin Unfiltered. Venmo, RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Of course, download the Black Star Network app. Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Samsung Smart TV. If you want to get our Roland Martin Unfiltered swag, be sure to go to shopblackstarnetwork.com. Hats, T-shirts, all that good stuff by going to Black Star Network, shop blackstarnetwork.com. And, of course, all the products that you see in our studio right here, these are Black-owned companies. More than 50 of these companies are on shopblackstarnetwork.com. So when you go to our marketplace segment, you are supporting those Black-owned companies. Download the app, fan base. Be sure to follow me at Roland S. Martin. Folks, that's it. I appreciate it. Shout out to Central State. I'm rocking their shirt, the Marauders. Shout out to see y'all. Of course, I was in Ohio on Monday with Representative Joyce Beatty. So Central State today. Wilberforce, relax. I'll have y'all on tomorrow. And I'll see y'all tomorrow. Holla!